Well, good afternoon, Angie. Thank you for coming on the program. How are you today?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
You're doing good. Good. Now, you are my first international guest, so this is a
There we
huge
go.
deal, right?
Cool.
We've gone international. So you're in Ontario, Canada, correct?
Ontario, Canada. Yes, I am.
Nice.
I'm
So how are
located.
things up there?
It's okay. I haven't been out of the house all week.
Who leaves the house
Realize that.
anymore?
I have not been out of the house all week.
That's 2019. We don't leave the house
Right?
anymore.
I know. Yeah, but
Uh,
the sad reality is where I'm located. It's Mississauga, Ontario, which is about half an hour, maybe 40 minutes west of Toronto,
okay.
and these days I could say it's 5 minutes kind of north of Niagara Falls, but usually it's about an hour. So we're just near Buffalo. It's a pretty good location where we're located.
Okay.
Close
Yeah,
to
when I was there in September, we were walking down the middle of the street in Niagara Falls. It was weird. It was almost like the zombie apocalypse hit. It was really strange. Beautiful country though.
It is. Yeah.
So why don't you tell everybody about your justriding.com and your mission, if you would.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm honored. Thank you so much for.
Oh, thank you for coming. I'm the one that should be honored.
Oh, come on. It's just amazing.
No, you go on. No,
come on. See how friendly most of the Canadians are. So friendly.
See, international relations.
Right.
Canadian people need to. It's okay.
See, the border might be physically closed, but we've just opened up another one.
It's a virtual summit. We're all going to be okay.
Right?
Awesome.
So, just so everybody could see. So I was born like this. I have a variety of congenital birth defects. Some you can see, some you can't. And I've loved motorcycle riding since I was a little girl. And it seems like yesterday. So, I started justriding.com to share my story. I get embarrassed, to be honest with you, sometimes about sharing it, just because I don't want people to perceive that, who does she think she is by telling this? You know what I mean? Everybody hears things differently, but I think I do think it's a cool story. And I think I think I have a really cool inspirational story where I can really help people. And God knows I'm good at talking. So I started it as my social platform to share the story, to share blogs, share information about my motorcycle life. But I guess, just as a kind of who I am and what I'm all about is I grew up in Montreal, Quebec. And I always tell those folks that like hockey that no, I'm not a Canadiens fan. I'm a New York Rangers fan. And
I saw that. Now, is that treason? Do they try and deport you at any point?
And now that I live in Toronto, it's like, what do you mean you don't like the Leafs? Well, listen, at least it's still Original Six, right? So we can agree on that. But sorry, I'm a Ranger fan because I had a lot of family in New York. And
okay.
Cool team. But when I was growing up in Montreal, my sister was actually dating a guy that raced in Daytona. And
nice.
I was 5 years old. She's dating this guy. I remember like yesterday, this is the 60s. And he pulled up on a bike with his buddy. And I'm a little girl. And at the time, people that know me won't believe that I was ever shy, but I was shy. And I was standing behind her there. And these guys pulled up, they looked like superheroes to me. They had the helmets and all that stuff. I couldn't tell you what kind of bikes they were on, but they said, do you want to ride? Yeah, sure. And I remember they took me for a ride around the block, like one at a time, obviously. And at first I was all happy and excited, right? But then I realized I'm just going around the block and I'm going very slow. So even at 5 years old, it's amazing how the shyness disappeared very quickly and I got mad. And I was very upset that this wasn't a longer ride, but that did it. It got me hooked. And growing up, it was all about Evel Knievel and the wide world of sports.
Yes.
Stuff, right?
I remember that.
Yeah.
I had the little motorcycle you wound up.
That.
And
you do the thing and the thing. And I think I successfully jumped once, just like the real Evel Knievel, like the rest of the time
he only had the one jump.
Yeah. And the helmet was over there. And oh, I love that thing. The camper and yeah.
Yeah.
But when I was a teenager, I begged my parents because everybody was riding mopeds, or it seemed to me like everybody in my area was riding mopeds, you know. I had to have one. I had to have one. I got one. I made sure I got the leathers. I had a helmet with a dark shield, you know. I had that. Oh, I was a motorcycle rider. I rode that thing like it was a bike, and I would try to go fast. I take turns really tight. And one day I was going to school, and it was where I went to school. It was called Westmount, and a lot of hills there, you know.
Okay.
And I'm going up the hill, and I look in the rearview mirror. There's a big city bus just pushing me, you know, pushing me. And I start pedaling, and I'm sweating, and the shield's fogging up, and I'm getting really upset. But I look cool, eh? I know I look cool. And then
it's all that matters,
right? 10-speed bike goes right by me. A bicycle goes by me, and they say, "You know what? This is really not in my head. It's a motorcycle. It's a bicycle with a little engine."
That's funny.
You know. So time went by, life takes over. And, you know, the bike just became one of those things. I'll get it one day. I'll look at it one day. And back then, you know, with no social media, it was kind of hard to even find anybody that you could talk to because of the way I was born. I'd have to look at something from one hand. And I can't even tell you how they set up the moped. I don't remember how it was set up, but they must have done something, but I don't remember. And then, you know, so that's part of the story that, you know, and then I got into music and, you know, with work, and I started to play, and I used a prosthetic to play, and I had an AC/DC trib. And
yeah, let's talk about that. Right. So what got you into that? When did you start playing guitar?
Well, this is interesting. I started playing guitar when I was about 11, 12 years old.
Okay.
And I started playing guitar because of Jimmy Page. Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin, that was my guy. So I remember I started playing, and, you know, at first I had a cheaper guitar, because who knows if I would have stuck with it, right? And, you know, you're going up and down the neck, and the hand is getting all, it wasn't very smooth. I had a Mel Bay chord book. I taught myself to play. I had a prosthetic that it had a clip on it to hold the pick. That's
oh, wow.
It was so rudimentary, you know, and then along came AC/DC. And so I started playing because of Jimmy Page, but I kept playing because of Angus Young. And I found AC/DC was just so much fun to play. And when I met my hubby in my 20s, the deal was, we live in an apartment now, but when we get a house, we're going to play AC/DC, you know, because we were jamming with other friends, and he loves Rush. And I mean, I like Rush too. And you know, different kinds of metal bands like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, all that stuff in the 70s and all that. But I said, but AC/DC, when we get a house, AC/DC. So the AC/DC started, the tribute band started because in 2000, he actually won a contest to go to this, I guess it was a promotional thing with Angus Young, Malcolm Young, and the drummer Phil Rudd was there in St. Catharines, Ontario. And they were there, got to meet them. And it was an amazing experience. And I even asked Angus, can you teach me Thunderstruck? And him and Malcolm did, and it just blew my mind. But they had an AC/DC trib band there. So the guys leave, and an AC/DC trib band comes up, and they're doing their thing. And I'm like in the suit, and, you know, and I'm doing it. I had a crowd of people around me. And at one point, the singer comes to me and says, I'll get you some beer if you just sit down. Can you sit down, because you're over there and the people are around you? And so I said to Lloyd, I said, you know, that's my hubby, Lloyd. I said, if I have a crowd here, I said, imagine if I'm playing.
Sure.
I could show people what you can do. Like, you know, that night we decided to form an AC/DC trib. It was that night that we decided to form it. And yeah, we formed it shortly thereafter. We got the band together, did the DC thing for like 15, 16 years. And the cool thing about that is it led us to doing some shows at motorcycle events and rallies. And that got me back into the bike. You know, see, I always look at things, there's always a positive, eh? Like, I mean, you know, people could say negative the way I was born. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as it's a positive. It's all I know. And I can inspire people. But if not for the way I was born, probably, I don't know if I would have picked up the guitar. And if I didn't, I wouldn't have formed an AC/DC trib, which wouldn't have got me back to my motorcycles. It's like a battery, negative, positive, you know?
Yeah.
Energy.
Now, and you taught yourself
really
to play?
Yeah,
That's
yeah. And I
awesome.
remember story, because there's always a story. We were playing once with had a rhythm guitar player. We're in the basement and practicing, and he said, "Ange, that's not how you play that song. This guy's amazing. He could play like Rush note for note. This guy is an incredible guitar player." He says, Ange, you're not playing the song, AC/DC song, right? I said, listen, I've been playing it this way for like 15 years. I am not changing now. And I just go from what I hear. Technique wise, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, and I twist. I have to twist when I play. I hold the guitar a certain way. But for those of you who don't know, Angus Young is a very short guy, and he's a very small man.
Yeah.
And he twists too. So it was kind of cool that when I met him and I said, wow, your hand, my hand, it's the same size. If you could do it, I could do it. And I just got to pick it a little differently, But it got me back to the motorcycles.
That's awesome.
The heart started pounding being around the bikes people, when you're around motorcycle people and they know you like bikes, everybody wants to take you for a ride, I'll take you. And that kind of, fed the fire a little bit, but it was still always one of these days. It's not the right time. And then I got diagnosed with breast cancer in 2014. But, it is what it is. It's just another chapter. And honestly, I was born with only one breast that developed. Like the right side never developed. So for me, physically, it wasn't that traumatic. I had a choice. I could do what's called a lumpectomy, or I could have a mastectomy. And I said, you know what? Because I had an implant on the right side and I didn't like it. And I said, get rid of the left one, pull out the thing on the right, and just, I can be any size I want. I can do whatever I want now. So I always try and look at the positive, right? But it woke me up to, you can't keep waiting for tomorrow because tomorrow might not come. And you don't realize that sometimes until something traumatic happens to you.
I remind myself all the time and my kids, some day's not a day on the calendar. While not in the same context, but I remember in my 20s, probably like 20, looking at a motorcycle and coming back 20 years later to buy it. Like it literally, because life gets in the way.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's, so do you think that it was that moment that sort of pushed you to change? Not to change, I'm sorry, that's the wrong word, but was that the moment that made you realize that now was that time?
Yep. Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. And because I've been very fortunate. I've done a lot of things. Like the word can't does not exist in my vocabulary. It never did. And my mom told me when I was born, she said, I used to roll instead of crawl because crawling was too slow for me. So I started rolling, and this was as a baby, right? And I said, I must have driven you crazy because she said, you can keep up. You're rolling here and you're rolling there. So I guess I'd always find a way. And with the motorcycle, when I got that diagnosis, I remember I said, like, I'm sure a lot of other people have said that have had a diagnosis, am I going to die? And the doctor said, well, that's what we're going to try and prevent. And, and I thought, good, because I got some more stuff I got to do, so. That's
a positive mental attitude if I've ever heard one. Wow.
Well, you go through something like that. I would see my oncologist, and I met with him once because I had surgery and then I started with chemo. And I told him, I said, this is the best I've ever felt in my life. I said, is this crazy? I said, because I feel great because I was off work. I wanted to work. And he said, no, I want you to rest and look after yourself. And he knew I was active, and I said, fine. So I started walking every day. I was going to the gym when I could. And what I looked toward, I guess, to get me through it was I started chemo in April of 2014. And I said, okay, when the NFL football season starts, because I love football, I'll be done my chemo. So I always gave myself a goal. And then when, the football season's coming, I'm getting excited. Great, no more chemo. And, but I did. I guess I was more rested, and you don't have the pressures of, let's say, work at the time, and you can focus on yourself. So I try to use it as an opportunity to practice for retirement. And I kind of like that side of it.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, it's a challenge. But again, I met so many wonderful people, some of which I'm still friends with today. One of which actually told me that, because I cut my hair off and I shaved it because I was going to lose it. And what happens is with the stubbles that are left, they become dry and brittle. And oh man, you lie down on a pillow, it hurts. You put a cap on, it hurts. And she told me, take a lint roller just go over your head and you'll see it's going to remove it. So my hubby and I were outside, and 5 sheets later, I felt amazing. It was like, oh, wow, this lint roller, who knew?
You really can find the positive in anything. I love this.
You have to. I mean, and so that's what really said, now when you're done all this stuff, you explore riding. And I had a port that was put in on the right side for the chemo, for them to give me that wonderful stuff. And then, of course, when it was all done and they took that out, I got what's called frozen shoulder. So my arm, I couldn't move it at all. It was down like that. I couldn't lift it. I couldn't. And they said 3 years for it and it took really 3 years. So 15, 16 plus. Yeah, but the 3 years was wonderful. And it hurt like hell. But, but you just, I don't know. I just persevered. I just saw it's just another chapter. But I made a commitment to myself that I was going to learn to ride. And that was where the big challenge started, because try and find someone when you don't know anybody, you're just getting started,
Yeah, share that story, because when we talked before, that I think that your determination to make that happen is just amazing. Because most people can't find a bike that they like with for the lack of a better term, normal conditions, let alone that adversity. I mean, wow.
Yeah, it was interesting, because so 2014 I was diagnosed, 14, 15, 16. Yeah. So in I guess around the summer of 2016, I guess. Yeah. I said to my hubby, because he didn't ride. And I said, you get a motorcycle. I said, because I'm tired of sitting on the back of my friends' bikes. Get a bike. Get your license. And I went to ride. I know, right? No pressure, right? So he was first. He went for his course. He had trouble with the clutch. Is he around? But he did. He was stalling a lot, but he passed. And we got a Yamaha 650 V-Star. And he had an ultimatum. I said, within 30 days, you better be comfortable enough to put me on the back of that bike, right? So here it is. It's like the fall of 2016. And we'd ride around. We'd boot around, and he'd stall in in the middle.
We'll cut that part out. He will never see it.
Why are you riding in the middle lane when you know you're going to stall? But okay, what do I know? And one time he came home and he pulled into the driveway, and he came in so fast that he had to do a really quick stop, or else we were going through the garage door. And of course the bike goes like this. Ange became an expert at jumping off that bike. I was an expert. He'd tip it, and because he put me on too early, and it was me, right? But one day he went to work, and I looked in the garage and saw his Yamaha there, and I got really depressed, and I said, see, I want to ride, and I don't like to be dependent on other people for anything. That's just I like to, if I want to do something, I want to find a way to do it. So I started exploring online about people that ride with one hand, or people that ride with, amputees, and everything I could find was in the United States, which was cool. But I thought, okay, so the positive is it's possible. The challenge is going to be, where are my friends from Ontario, Canada, that can help me, right? Mm-hmm. So at least I knew it could be done. And I went to, I guess you could call it more like a manufacturer's motorcycle show. We usually have 3 motorcycle shows in Toronto. We have the Super Show in January, which is like new and used bikes and all kinds of gear, and, those kind of vendors. And it's a great show. Then there's the more of a manufacturer show in February. And then there's a spring show, which is an awesome show. And I actually organized the Women in Motorcycling exhibit there. And
nice. So there's nothing you can't do. You got it covered completely.
Yeah. So, and that's an amazing show. Crossing our fingers that we can get it done this year.
Yes.
But in February, so I went to that manufacturer show, and I went to every manufacturer, and I talked to every sales guy from every manufacturer. I said, I want to ride. What is your suggestion? What do you think? And a lot of them didn't take me seriously. And the one that actually spent so much time with me was Honda. And they had the 2017 Honda Rebel. It was the new design with the fat tires. And I met Sid. And I get very emotional because it was just a very special time. And I've always heard about motorcycle family and, how awesome people are. And from that day, I knew, I understood. This guy became like my instant brother, and he's a sales guy, for a dealership, Barry Honda. And he spent so much time with me and had me sit on the bike and was walking me through things and how he, the ideas that he had to get me on it. And he introduced me to his district sales manager, Nick. And Nick said, "Oh yeah, no problem." He said, we could set it up. Not a problem. We'll find you somebody, we'll do the mods. And I remember Sid said, "Listen, if you put a down payment on the bike today, it's not like buying a car. If something happens and you feel that this isn't the thing for you, we'll cancel the deal." Okay. Riding a motorcycle is about making you happy. He says, it's not about getting you from A to B. We're here to make you happy, And so I signed, gave him the deposit. So I'm up here and I'm all doing the happy dance. And I look at the hubby and he's like, and I said, "Well, what's the matter?" So I go from here, I said, "What's wrong?" Because he was nervous. I understand, right? Sure. Like I feel the same way, right? But so we got over that. And then I started walking around all the, they had schools, that do the training. Mm-hmm. So I figured I'm here, I'm at the show. I may as well start talking to some of the schools. And the problem was that, when you take your training, they provide the motorcycles for you when you take and they said, "We won't be able to let you use your own bike. You have to use our bike." And some of them talked about insurance and this and that. So they said, "But you could take private lessons." I said, "Yeah, but if I take private lessons, then I don't have to go to the Ministry of Transport in Ontario to do the test." Mm-hmm. And I said, and I figured if I show up at our ministry like this, the first thing I'm worried that they might say is, because, forget it. I don't know if that would have happened or not, but I just thought if I take a course, it's going to help my insurance. But if I take a course, they evaluate you. So when you take the course, it's the riding school that does the evaluation with you. Okay. Well, I just thought it would be better than having to go to the Ministry of Transportation. So again, here to here to here, left there, and I got really depressed because I thought, how am I going to take a course then? Like who's going to teach me? So I canceled the order of the bike. And then when Nick found out why I canceled it, he said, "No, I'm going to introduce you to Don Redicop, who owns Learning Curves Riders Training." And I spoke to Don, and Don said, "You show up on any bike, we will teach you." He said, "But you have to learn how to, operate your controls and that." And, it was just, once it started, it was, everybody wanted to help. And I found this guy, Todd Topper from Mission Cycle in Angus. He was amazing. He did all the mods on that Rebel. I didn't know anything. All I know is I wanted to ride, And I said, "You just make it happen." And I said, he says, "Well, what are you going to do? You're going to wear a prosthetic, or are you going to?" I said, "No." I said, "This is all I know. For me, this is natural." I just, So he was the one that told me about a centrifugal force clutch and how it was actually EFM auto clutch that you send your clutch off to them. So they're using your original components. Okay. And they fabricate it and whatnot. It's with ball bearings and everything. It's all this fancy stuff that comes back. He installs it into my bike. Todd moved the throttle to the left-hand side, and it was like a finger throttle. It was called Goldfinger. I
saw that. Yeah.
It's kind of cool. And for your index finger, so you're like this, and he moved the front brake to the left-hand side. And once it was done, I hadn't taken a training yet because I couldn't. I had to learn how to ride the thing with the controls because the school could not teach me that. So we went to a parking lot, and I have that video. That's one of the videos I have up on my Instagram. Went to a parking lot with my hubby and my buddy, and I remember my buddy pushed me for a little while, which is what they do in riders training too, with just to get you feel. And I just started riding the thing, and it was the hottest day. It was the hottest day of that summer, and I think I rode for over 90 minutes before I stopped. I was just.
If that's the video that I'm thinking about, and we could talk about how I saw it later. It's almost like your smile was going to burst out of your helmet. Like that was emotional for me to watch, where I'm fighting back tears. I can't imagine what that had to be like for you.
I was just going nuts. Like I couldn't believe it. I was like, and to the point where my buddy said when I was done, he says, "So you're going to ride that home, eh?" I'm not going to ride it all. I'm not ready for that. I'm in the parking lot, But I did put on, I guess it's 800 kilometers Canada speak. I'm not sure
Canada
how
speak.
that is.
We're gonna have to work this international thing
Right?
out.
Yeah. What is, I don't know, 400 or 500 miles. How many miles is 800 kilometers? Who could tell us that? But I rode that far before I took my training. And when I took my rider's training, so it was a Thursday, it was in class. Saturday you go and they start with all the, and I didn't have to worry about a clutch. I'd still shift with that setup. I just didn't have to worry about a clutch because centrifugal force disengaged the engine automatically.
Mm-hmm.
So I was usually just hanging out in second gear and doing their stuff and everything. Then came Sunday and they taught you how to do the tight turns. And
okay. Yeah, I failed that part. Now, did they teach you the figure eight? That's how we do it here.
We had that. We had the figure eight. We had, go straight and here's the pylon, stop before the pylon, or you'd have a guy standing there and you're going like this and he's motioning left or right. Different circle. Yeah, we did the figure eight and we all rode around and they had different exercises. It was really cool. But on Sunday was the evaluation day. And Sunday morning, they wanted us to do tight circles, like tight. And I was going on and I felt nervous and the bike went down and I went down and my head went back to the point that the helmet had a little mark on it. And my instructor says, you're not going to be able to wear that helmet again, right? And I'm starting to cry because the finger throttle was cracked. And I said, how am I going to finish the training? Like, what are we going to do? Fortunately, the course that I took was in Markham, Ontario at the Honda campus. So there were two guys in the course that worked for Honda. With one of my instructors, they took that bike into the shop. They MacGyvered it so I could still use this is I couldn't believe it. And I passed. I only lost 2 points. I think you can lose up to 12. I lost 2. But I did it, and it was such a great, amazing feeling that I said, wow, I rode here and now I can ride home and I've got my, then you have it's a graduated licensing. I don't know if you do that kind of.
Yeah, we don't have that in the States. No? We're stupid. You can just buy the biggest thing you can get your hands on. No, I never understood it. You literally can walk in and buy an 1800cc bike. As long as you have an MC license, it doesn't matter. Like from the day you get that stamp or even a permit, I guess technically you could buy the bike.
Really? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's stupid. I never understood it.
But you know what?
So what's your limit there to start?
So there isn't. It's similar. It's just that it's graduated licensing. So how it works in Ontario is the first thing you do is called an M1. So it's kind of like a learner's permit. And all it is you go to the Ministry of Transportation of Ontario. That's who issues our licensing, and you answer multiple choice questions online. There's 3 different components of it. You do that, you walk out with your M1. Then when you pass your first evaluation, you get what's called your M2. There's certain restrictions. With your M1, you can't ride at night and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like a CC limitation.
No, I feel that way too. You can get, I could get any bike I want. I could have gotten 1800.
Yeah, same here.
Sense. Right. And my Rebel was 300. And I remember people saying to me, and you're going to grow that bike really fast. And I said, yeah, but you know what? I feel comfortable. I feel safe. And if I decide I don't want to do it, I don't want to invest in but it's true because in June, I had that Rebel. In August, I got a Shadow. So it was August 2017 and I got a 2014, I think it was 2012. It was a 2012 Honda Shadow. And again, I had that thing fabricated.
Now, could they take the parts from the old bike to it or did they have to completely rebuild it?
They had to use the clutch that was from that bike.
Okay.
I still had my Rebel, right? I didn't want to lose my Rebel
that explains the picture I saw. Okay, now I get it.
Yeah, right. So so they fabricated that for me, and I really started riding that bike in 2018. But I found there were problems. It could have been me, but the plates of the clutch would fuse. I'd say maybe every 10,000 clicks, which in miles, I don't know, 8,000 miles or something like that. And then you have to get this thing serviced and it was becoming this crazy expense. And I remember the thing broke down when we were riding in New York, it was Route 97. it's along the Delaware River. This is one I was telling you about. And at the end of it, it's called Hawk's Nest, and it's just beautiful.
I've ridden that 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
amazing how small it is, like as far as
right?
distance, but it's the most exhilarating 2 miles.
Right? I know,
or whatever,
right?
even if it's that. Yeah.
Well, the first time we tried to get there, we didn't because the bike, the clutch went, and the bike wasn't going because the plates fused. And we were on the side of a road, which was, I guess, it's not an interstate, but it was a highway. And it was about 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I don't know where, New York. And I said, well, this isn't good because we're on our way to Pennsylvania. To get the cell phone, I had to call, it's CAA, but it was AAA. And as I'm doing this, here comes a deer. Why is that? When I drive my car and I go, oh, it'd be so nice to see a deer, they don't come out. I'm standing there with the bike that's broken down on the side of the road. Do you think, what shows up? A deer. And I'm looking at it saying, no, don't come here now. Please go away. Okay? So that was an experience. I had to get the bike shipped back to home, and it was a whole ordeal. But I made the decision. That's when I made the decision to look at a dual clutch, which is what I have now. So I heard about the Honda's dual clutches, which you can ride as automatics, and you can also ride manual, but you have paddle shifters that are on the handlebar. So you can't get that here in Canada, Ontario. So I had to go to what's called, the name of the store is Bob Weaver Motorsports in North Tonawanda. And I went there, and they had a Honda CTX dual clutch.
Where is that?
That is just, let's say about, I'm going to estimate about 10, 15 minutes out of Niagara Falls, New York.
Oh, okay. I was thinking it was somewhere else. I'm sorry. When you said that, I was thinking it was in Pennsylvania.
No, North Tonawanda. Yeah.
No, I heard you wrong.
Right? Yeah. No, and I remember saying, I'm just going to go to look. I'm just going to look.
That never ends well.
And I said to my hubby, I said, well, look, they're selling, I just want to see if it's going to fit me. That's all. I just want to see if it's going to fit me. So they brought it out, and I sat on it. And right away, I picked up the phone, called my shop, and said, I'm going to send you some pictures. Can you tell me if you could mod this? All you got to do is move the throttle and the front brake. That's it. You don't have to do anything with the clutch. Nothing. And, we're going back and forth on a Saturday. And he says, yeah, Ange, I can do it. And I said, I'm buying this bike that I just came to look at.
And that's a 700, right?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful bike.
Well, thanks. Well, I have two. Because I had to get rid of the Rebel. I love that Rebel. I loved it. But we have no space. And my husband didn't like having his car outside. And, we only had so much.
Cars always go outside. Bikes first.
Right. So I had to get rid of two bikes. So my first one was a Honda CTX Naked, which is my black bike. And I loved it so much, but it was 2014, and I was getting nervous because Honda doesn't make them anymore. Mm-hmm. So the year before.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So in 2019, I found that Bob Weaver had a 2018, which was the new model, and it's more of a cruiser. It's my red one. So I went to get that one. So now you've got
the bags on that one, right? Yeah. You've got the 3 bags on that.
And the cool thing is it weighs a bit over 500, I think, but it's low weight distribution, and you're literally sitting on the gas tank. So it's not heavy, which I'll be the first to admit. I did have problems with the shadow that way because I would hold the handlebar, but the right side was like this sometimes. So if I'd be stopped on a hill, like in Pennsylvania, and I'm stopped at a stop sign, and now I have to go, that was a big challenge for me. Sometimes it was such a challenge, and I'll be honest, I used to say, okay, hubby, walk it across. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm going to drop it.
I can respect that.
But I hated doing that. Again, what if I was by myself, right? I'd have to figure out a way. So the CTX for me it's perfect. It's fuel injected. It just goes. I love it. The only thing that we changed was from a finger throttle. The shop fabricated a thumb throttle, similar to an ATV. And it's a lot easier, and the grips and that are similar to a Rebel. So it's just, I love it. I mean, even last year with COVID, we still put on about 13,000 clicks, I guess, which is about 8,000 miles or something like that. The goal was 30,000, but So that's what got me riding. Thank you. So yeah, again, yeah, I look at the positive. If not for breast cancer, I probably wouldn't be riding today. It would have probably just been one of those things that I love to do, but it's, life moves on. And since getting in the motorcycle community, I've met so many people. I've done shows. So I've done the Toronto show, in January. I've done the spring show a few times. Like I said, I organize a women in motorcycling exhibit. So to try and share the joy of riding and get women on a bike, or either move from the back to the front, But I also found that it was really helpful to share my story, because people say, well, how do you ride? And, everybody was so supportive. The most interesting question I ever got was, if a dog crossed your path, what would you do? Somebody asked me that. And that's what people, right? What would you do? So,
all the things I could come up with, that wouldn't be, okay.
Like, yeah. So how would you handle it? So, well, how would you handle it? Well, you can't hit the dog. What would you do? How would you control your bike? No different than anybody else. For me, this is all I know, So what would I do? I would try, obviously, not to hit the dog, but at the end of the day, it's all about safety and whatnot. But
sure,
I couldn't understand, well, how can you maneuver? And I so it helped me realize even more that it's important to share that what you can achieve. And I'll tell you this, I'm doing weights now because I have to start training so right now this is my
damn. Well, we're not going to compare. I'm out.
No. And they said, the doctors, I never have a muscle on this side, and it's getting there. But if you catch up with me in June, you'll see my left arm will be like double the size, because everything I do is one hand.
Now, are you using the right for support in any way? Because I know I've seen you ride, but I can't visualize it right now. So yeah, for people that haven't seen it.
Sure. So most of the time it's just the one hand. And I use my hips a lot. So I'm, using a lot to turn, and it helps, right? But it's mostly one hand, but that's what I'm used to. But if sometimes there's, these beautiful wind gusts, then I might just lean forward with the right and like support it like on the handlebar. Like if this was like the handlebar, so I just have it to kind of, or sometimes what's really cool is if I'm backing it up, well, then I can just go like this and the handlebar's here. And so I'll hold it that way. Other than that, it's all one hand and off I go. And I met so many people, and I thought, okay, when I was playing guitar, when I was doing the AC/DC trip, people would say, because of you, I started to, I found I could do this or I could do that. If you could play guitar, I could this and that. And at first I get embarrassed about it, because I don't know, I would just say, yeah, thanks, and put my head down, and the cheeks would get red. But I realized that it's cool. Like my mom used to say, you never know who you're inspiring. Nope. So with the motorcycle, it's just another aspect of it now. And I hear people saying, if you can ride, like, what's my excuse to not do what I want to do? Or
well, and I had said that to Katie, my wife, after we had talked on the Zoom call the first time, is that, and I don't mean to be awkward about this, but yeah, I don't know how anyone else has an excuse, right? Like it's like you're literally the bar that everyone has to, you know what I mean? That there really is no excuse if you can do it. And you've overcome those obstacles with such a positive mental attitude. I just don't know what else to say. And I can't imagine how great that has to be for the kid that, that meets you, or the person that's struggling, that they can find your kind of inspiration. I mean, it's amazing.
Sometimes I have the bike parked and other riders will walk by. You don't notice it. From looking at the motorcycle, you're not going to notice the thumb throttle. So honestly, sometimes I go, why don't they come and talk to me? Because I have a story I want to share, and I want to tell them how I ride. But that's why really one of the reasons I started Just Riding. And it was I wasn't sure what I wanted it to be. I wasn't sure if I wanted it to be, talk about all the places you can go and all the places you can eat, because of course we ride motorcycles, so we're always eating, right? We got to find the best restaurant.
But you don't want to stop at Tim Hortons, right? We're not going to get into that argument.
No.
Okay. I liked Tim Hortons when I was there. I'm just saying it was good.
Let me say, I don't want anybody to be upset. I like Tim Hortons. It's not about Tim Hortons. It's about when I ride my bike, I ride my bike. There's a Tim Hortons on like every corner. I don't want to stop every 5 minutes to go have a coffee or a tea or a donut, whatever it is. I want to ride. So I love Timmy's, but I tell my buddies, if you're going on a Timmy's ride, I'm out, right? Like I want to be on that bike for at least 90 minutes before we stop.
Well, that's the joke with the Harley riders is that, that everyone rides from bar to bar to bar. And I'm kind of like you. When I'm on it, I want to run the tank out before we stop.
Right?
Like I don't get to ride. Well, some days it's daily, but when I'm out, I want to ride.
Right? Yeah.
And everyone has their own ride and their own, what they like. But so where are some of you mentioned going to the Hawk's Nest, which I think is really cool because we've both been there. And I know for me, New York State was amazing. We came through the Adirondacks, we were in the Catskills, and that's just some of the best. My poor wife does not like to ride spiritedly. Fast is okay, but she's not a big windy road person.
Right.
We went through the Catskills with a fully loaded bike with our rick rack on top of the rack. And the whole way she's just screaming, keep going. Cause it's those switches, and it was just so funny because I was like, here I am worried that you're going to scream, get me off this bike. And she's like, more. It's a beautiful, beautiful area to ride.
Oh, God. Yeah. I mean, like Ontario's beautiful. It is. And yes, there's wonderful roads and nice windy twisties. And, up north we have the Muskokas with the lakes, and I love water. So I love it. But I love going down south. I'm very into history. And yes, we have history in Ontario, it's a beautiful province and we have a beautiful country, but I love American history. I've always loved American history since I was in school. So I just like going to these places and feeling the history, like these small towns, with the flags and the diners, and I just love it. I love it, and the people.
Have you ever been? If you've been to the Hawk's Nest, have you been to Wellsboro, Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Because you were saying diners, and that's their diner there, and their steak shop is, or not steak restaurant, whatever you call it. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And I mean, being so close to Buffalo, so we go around the Finger Lakes quite a bit. But we've ridden down to Ocean City, Maryland, and
that's right, yeah,
Wildwood, New Jersey, and then coming back from New Jersey, there's some beautiful roads there, and we wanted to go to
not New Jersey. There's not.
No, there were
north maybe.
North, yeah. I know the New Jersey.
I mean, you want to ride through the Pine Barrens, you can set your cruise control, take a nap, and the bike will just stop when it gets to the end. It's terrible.
Yeah. No, but north, I was surprised. Wow, this is really nice.
The part when you cut into the Hawk's Nest, way up there.
Yeah, right. One of the coolest things we did is when we were in Ocean City, we did the bridge tunnel to Virginia Beach. That was amazing, and I had the GoPro on. Of course, I found out that I had it on, it was taking pictures. I come home and I download it. There's
Guilty.
like 8,000 photos, what the heck, even film. But that was really cool, like going under the, but we went to Lake George because when I grew up in Montreal, we always used to go to Lake George as a getaway. And I love Lake George, and talk about the Adirondacks. And we went there a couple of years ago, and it wasn't Americade at the time, but oh my God, the roads. I didn't want to come home, right? Like we were going to go to Americade last year, and I actually had some speaking engagements booked because I'm moving into inspirational speaking, and of course COVID said, no, you're not this year. So so we've done that. We've ridden all over Ontario. Our plan was to ride to also to Atlantic Canada, to the Maritimes, and do the Cabot Trail and around Gaspé and Quebec. But we couldn't get into Atlantic Canada because of the bubble last year and all that stuff. But we've done some really, really cool stuff. The only thing is, if there's gravel, if you lead me into gravel.
You don't do gravel. We're done. I don't do gravel.
I don't like gravel. No, thanks. we once rode up north, and again, I don't like ice cream, and I never understood what it is with bikers and ice cream. And maybe you can, I don't know, somebody can explain it to me. But my friends, they got it. We're riding, and I hear the guy's he's pointing. So, oh my God, ice cream, really? And what? It's gravel. The whole parking lot is gravel. So I rode in. I just stopped right away, and I said, "That's it. You want to go for ice cream? You can walk the bike over there because I don't do gravel." Yeah, hopefully hoping for some good riding this year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So as we come to wrap this up a bit, so there's no other word. I was honored to see your documentary. I couldn't get my workday done fast enough to watch it. And I have to say if I remember correctly, it's about 35 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, correct.
I'm a documentary person to begin with, and I love film, but that has to be the most inspiring 35 minutes I've ever seen.
Well, thank you.
Talk to people about that experience. That's the end of this year. Hopefully we'll see that'll be released to the public.
Correct. Yeah.
I have to say, before I forget, there's a scene at the very end of that when you're coming out from the group ride and you make that wicked right turn. And I was just like, I don't know why, but in that moment it really speaks to your ability, because I don't know what I expected. Clearly you can ride, but just the way that you whip that bike around, and I'm screaming to Katie, I'm like, did you see that? I mean, it's everything about that from your childhood story and you playing in the band's inspiring, but just to see that, I just started laughing to myself, and I'm like, so what excuse do I have, right? Oh, it's raining. You can't ride. Well, let me call Angie and she can tell me I'm a wimp and we'll go out ride. That's what you should do. You should have a number available for people to call and you have no excuse.
Just call in.
Except for Gravel or Tim Hortons. Yeah. That's the only two outs you get.
When I got into the motorcycle community, I learned that there was a Toronto Motorcycle Film Festival. And I thought, what a great way to share my story if I make a documentary, which would be more or less focused on motorcycle riding. It doesn't include everything, but it touches on the breast cancer because that's what got me writing, and a little bit about the music. And it starts off with my current band Lefty and the Goons, where I'm singing this song, "Ain't No Girly Girl," and I wrote that. And my whole point about the song, "Ain't No Girly Girl," is whatever your thing is, just be true to you. Just be you, be whoever you are. Don't let others.
Boy, there's a message.
Should or shouldn't do, right? Yeah, right.
You can't fake being you. You really can't.
Right? You can't.
And that's important.
Yeah. So I was connected with this guy, Christopher Darton, and he's a wonderful, wonderful Indigenous producer, director, and we worked together and we made this film. It's called Angie Tales of Determination, and I actually have
That's
the trailer.
An understatement, but yes.
Thanks. I have the trailer I have a Facebook page, just riding, and it's on my Instagram, and www.justriding.com is my website. It's on there, the trailer. But it was so cool. I mean, I had a vision of, we'd get a bunch of bikes. We'd ride down to this a shop in St. Anne's, Ontario called Tons of Bike Gear. These people are amazing. They support the motorcycle community. They have a big, big parking lot. And I thought, wow, we could do some film there. That's where we exit from.
Okay.
We had, I think, about 15 bikes here outside my house. And I remember the neighbors, we get these 15 bikes and we're starting our ride down to the location where we're going to film. And it was the coolest thing, where people are watching you go. But there was none of this, what are these people doing? It was like, this is really cool. And I think the coolest thing, even on that ride, was, when you stop beside a car and you see a little kid, and I saw this kid and they reminded me of me when I was little, and I saw them looking at me and I'm looking at them, and I know I had the dark shield, and, they're waving, and you got to make a point of waving. It's so important, they'll remember that just like I do. I'll never forget it. But it was a really cool experience to put it together. I'm looking forward to releasing it. I've got it submitted in about 30 some odd film festivals right now. And until they make their decisions about if they will take it, I can't have it out to the public. It was accepted by one already in November. I actually just submitted it yesterday. There's a Dubai Motorcycle Film Festival. Who knew? Like,
Now, see, they have to fly you in. See, that would be awesome.
Oh,
'cause then
yeah,
you've
like-
arrived.
right? Kiss
Yeah,
just did their
absolutely.
concert there. So now, if they could do Kiss, I think they can handle me.
Absolutely.
Right. But yeah, so I just submitted it there, and there's a Portland Motorcycle Film Festival, and then of course the Toronto one. But there's all kinds of film festivals out there, and I'm just all about sharing the story. Yes, I love the motorcycle community, and once we get going again, like I'm working with Motorcycle Tours. It's a women's group, and I might have an engagement there this March. But I'm going to reach out to Americade again when things start getting going. And my goal is next year, which is 2022, is to hit the road and go to as many bike rallies as I can in the States,
awesome.
in Canada, meet people, share my story, like do the speaking. That's really my vision. And hey, if I can bring the movie with me and we can maybe show it at some, I've had to teach myself not to be embarrassed by this, and that it's okay to say that, to share your story, that you could possibly help other people. And believe it or not, there's a lot of people out there that ride that are amputees. Like there's a group on Facebook, amputee riders, the things that people do. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. But, for the average person to find that, it's very difficult. And that's why I started this and did the platform. And
I mean, you're certainly a fantastic ambassador for that. That's great. I'm going to make sure that I put all the links to all your social media, and people need to follow it. And I can't wait personally for your movie to come out, because I think it's just, it's all inspiring. It's one of those things where you look at and, one of the things that I'm really big on is mental health. And I suffer from depression, anxiety. That's why I ride. And to see you take something that, and I'm paraphrasing, it wasn't my experience, but that was so negative, and to turn it into something so positive is just, like I said, it's inspiring.
Well, thanks.
I think that people like you are the reason this community is great, because there's these really wonderful niches of the community that are willing to help that part. You know what I mean? And I think that's great.
Well, thank you so much. It means
we need to open up the border. I was that close. I could have got over.
Right? Like, right?
I should have jumped off when I was on the Maid of the Mist. I could have made it.
Back, right?
I wouldn't have made it.
Knows? Oh my God, that's so funny.
So that's what I wanted to ask you before we finish. So the one thing I always like to ask people is not hitting the tourist spots. So I finally get over the bridge and I get into Canada, if they'll let me in eventually. Where are the things that you would recommend in Ontario? Not the tourist things. Where are the things that are really the true experience there?
Well, I mean, it depends. It all depends what you want to do.
Okay,
I mean,
that's
you know
fair.
what I mean? But at the same time, like when you ride, you discover things. Like, yeah, I live here now. I've lived here for, over 37 years. And on the bike, I'm still discovering places I didn't even know existed. Like there's a cool store called Grumbling Grannies. Who knew? I mean, it's out in, there's Grumbling Grannies. Like it's so cool, but like places like Bob Cajun. I love Bob Cajun. Calabogie. We have this thing called Ride the Highlands North. It's beautiful. The twisty roads, like any road that starts with 5 and it's a 500 series road. Wow. I'm going to take you on those roads. You're going to love it.
I can't wait. I would be honored.
And the water and the scenery is it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. The only thing that, Huntsville is a beautiful area. That's in our Muskokas, The only thing about riding here in the summers, you got the bugs, right? And so as soon as you stop, and the bees, what is it with the wasps? Like, what is it with the wasps? And they
you haven't heard that story. So we were in the Adirondacks. Katie, my wife, decides she generally wears a high-vis jacket when she rides, on the back. She took her jacket off. Now we have comms. We're riding. I forget what lake we were. We were below Lake George, whatever the lake is below Lake George. And I just hear this ungodly screaming like I've never heard before on the comms. So I pull over. She hit a yellow jacket, took it in the arm at 50, 60 miles an hour.
Ooh.
And yeah. Now she'll tell you the story. It was this big. It really wasn't. But I've done that. I took one in the face. It hurts.
I can't imagine. Like, oh no. But I just have to say, you mentioned depression. And I'm not going to lie. I mean, you get diagnosed with something like breast cancer, you think I don't. I have days
Yeah.
where I can't get out of bed, and I cry, and you go through the why me, and but I think it's okay to be down. It's okay as long as you pick yourself back up. And having folks in the motorcycle community, especially brothers and sisters, like, you see, I get emotional about it because it's just people that I never knew I had, and this family that is always willing to help you. It doesn't matter. All of us. This is the one place where I felt like I wasn't judged. And that's my big thing too: is don't judge me. I got a shirt that says that because a lot of times growing up, I'm big into hockey. I played sports. But people would look at you and say, "Well, how are you going to do it? You can't do it." And you feel like you always have to prove yourself. And with the motorcycle community, I haven't had to prove myself once. People look at me and it's just, okay, so where are we going? And everybody feels comfortable. And it's just an amazing community. And I just want to do anything I can to help anybody recognize that you can do anything. You can reach for the stars, ride the motorcycle. If it's not a motorcycle that you want to do, whatever your thing is, you can do it. No doubt. You can do anything.
I got nothing after that. I cannot tell you how grateful I am to sit and talk to you and, to start a friendship with you. I'm really looking forward to riding with you.
Me too.
And I'm going to put the links to all your social media. I urge anybody that sees this to check it out. And if you can't find inspiration from that, quite frankly, you're dead. It's just unbelievable. Like I said, I was just really moved. And I appreciate you taking your time out today. And thank you.
Oh no, thank you. I'm blessed to have met you, and I really look forward to this ride that we're going to go on, that we're going to talk about. We're going to film it, right?
Absolutely.
There'll be stories.
You will be on my channel, I assure you. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.